The Hermetic tradition has long been concerned with the relationship between the inner world of our consciousness and the outer world of nature, between the microcosm and the macrocosm, the below and the above, the material and the spiritual, the centric and the peripheral. The Hermetic worldview, held by figures such as Pythagoras, Plato, the Stoics, and Renaissance alchemists such as Robert Fludd and Paracelsus, pictured a great chain of being linking our inner spark of consciousness with all the facets of the great world. This world was described as a Platonic metaphysical clockwork, through which our inner world was linked by means of a hierarchy of beings and planes to the highest unity of the divine. The patterns of the microcosm and macrocosm are all around us. Whether we experience them in nature or in our own bodies, they are always there, and they will still be around long after we are dead. Becoming aware of them is the first step to understanding our place in the grand universal theatre, a curiosity that all humans should strive towards, because in exploring the mysteries of the universe, we are in turn exploring ourselves. So, how does one find these patterns, and what secrets do they teach? And how can we align our lives with them in order to increase our level of awareness and solve the maze of consciousness? Let's reveal the answers to these questions together. Welcome to Agrippa's Diary, the gathering place for mystical seekers. The concepts of microcosm and macrocosm represent an ancient philosophical theory formulated to explain humanity's place and role in the cosmos. This theoretical framework, crafted by early philosophers and mystics, conceptualized humans as miniature universes or microcosmos, with their internal composition and structure mirroring that of the larger universe, the macrocosmos or megacosmos. During this era, the term cosmos signified order, representing a harmonious and aesthetically pleasing configuration of components in any organic system. Consequently, it also symbolized order in societal contexts, reflecting the principles of good governance. Drawing parallels between the individual human being and society, as well as society and the cosmos, formed integral facets of microcosmic theory. A significant derivative of this perspective was the belief in the cosmos as a living entity possessing a mind or soul, referred to as anima mundi, or the world soul, by the alchemists. From an academic perspective, the earliest documented references to these theories can be traced back to ancient Greece. However, there are clues suggesting the origins of these concepts could be far older. The view itself is ancient and may be found in many philosophical systems worldwide, such as, for example, in ancient Mesopotamia, in ancient Iran, in ancient Chinese philosophy, or in Buddhism and the Upanishads. The terms microcosm and macrocosm refer more specifically to the analogy as it was developed in ancient Greek philosophy and its medieval and early modern descendants. So let's stick with that for now. The philosopher Pythagoras is commonly attributed to the initial development of these ideas. Although Pythagoras did not explicitly utilize the microcosm and macrocosm concept or created a definitive anthropomorphic view of the universe, he nevertheless made significant contributions to our understanding of the cosmos. He is attributed as the first philosopher to employ the term cosmos in reference to the universe, likely drawing inspiration from the celestial sphere studded with stars. His use of the term aligns closely with the Zoroastrian notion of Asa, which signifies a divinely guided order or creation. As such, the concept of cosmos encapsulates not merely the entirety of the universe, but also conveys the notion of a harmoniously balanced order governing it. Pythagoras and his disciples, who eventually formed a mystery cult, viewed numbers and their ratios as the underlying principles of harmony pervading the universe. They perceived a close link between human aesthetic experiences in music, art, and the orderly motions of celestial bodies. This connection between the cosmos and mankind provided a foundational framework for their philosophy, intertwining religious rituals, mathematical and astronomical studies, and artistic pursuits. Pythagoras and his religious followers proposed mathematical answers to divine queries and regarded mathematical exercises as spiritual practices aimed at soul purification. These theories and philosophies were further expanded by other philosophers. Despite not explicitly using the terms, Plato's works, particularly the Timaeus, provide a more explicit articulation of the macrocosm/microcosm concept. He elucidated on the concept of the cosmos's soul, and its anthropomorphic manifestation. Plato writes, "We may consequently state the following. This world is indeed a living being endowed with a soul and intelligence, a single visible living entity containing all other living entities, which by their nature are all related." In the end, it was Aristotle, the pupil of Plato, who was the first to coin the term microcosm, but that's hardly important. In another philosophical text called Philebus, Plato postulates that both humans and the universe are comprised of two core elements, a tangible body and a rational soul. He suggests that our physical form is a derivative of the universe's corporeal body, just as our soul originates from the soul of the cosmos. Therefore, the universe is not just a systematic array of celestial bodies, but rather an intelligent, living entity. The cosmic body resembles a sphere, and its soul is represented by celestial orbits that guide the planetary wanderings. In a similar manner, the human soul is composed of metaphorical orbits that host the journey of our emotions, housed within the spherical head. The rest of the human body functions primarily to support this central control hub. Contrary to the macrocosm, a complete immortal entity without the necessity for sensory perceptions, digestive mechanisms, or locomotive appendages, the microcosm, or humans, represents only a fragment of the entire cosmos. Given that our existence is susceptible to elemental threats, we require these additional body parts for the perception of danger, evasion, and nutrient replenishment. These external disturbances can disrupt the orbits within the human soul, leading to emotional turmoil. However, when this disturbed microcosm gazes upon the skies, it perceives the orderly planetary motions guided by the celestial orbits of the macrocosmic soul. Through philosophical introspection, it can comprehend the parallel between its own nature and the broader cosmos. Armed with this revelation, the microcosm understands that just like the universe harnesses reason to steer the planets, it too should utilize reason to regulate its emotions. By doing so, the microcosm is able to quell its inner conflict, nurturing its soul to eventually return to its celestial origin. In Book 4 of the Republic, Plato seamlessly intertwines the microcosmic theme and the pre-Socratic inclination to consider cosmology through a political lens. He proposes his ideal city-state model as a means to delve into the essence of the human soul, asserting that both entities, city and soul, possess a three-tier hierarchical structure. Plato's model draws analogies between social classes and parts of the human body. The philosopher kings, embodying reason, are associated with the head, the warrior class, representing spiritedness or courage, parallels the chest, and the worker class, denoting appetite, correlates with the stomach. He postulates that for harmony to prevail in either the city or the soul, the lower components should submit to the higher, with the latter providing wise governance. This profound metaphor of the body politic had a far-reaching influence. For instance, St. Paul of Tarsus adapted it to symbolize the Church as the mystical body of Christ, as depicted in Corinthians and other scriptures. Medieval philosophers such as John of Salisbury, in his work Polycraticus, and Marsilius of Padua, in Defensa Pacis, utilized this framework to articulate their political perspectives. The body politic concept remained resilient in early modern times, profoundly inspiring Thomas Hobbes's seminal work, Leviathan. The common contemporary use of organic analogies to describe the nation or the country is, therefore, an inheritance from earlier macrocosmic metaphors. But I digress. Among the Hellenistic philosophers, the Stoics preserved the idea of the universe as a living organism, but the human being as a miniature image of it did not apparently interest them as much. The Middle Platonists also accepted the existence of a world soul, and like the Stoics, considered it divine. According to Stoic philosophy, the macrocosm and microcosm are reflections of one another. This idea is based on the Stoic belief in a universal reason, logos that permeates and governs all things. The universe is a rational, ordered system, and humans, as part of this system, have a share in this divine rationality. In other words, the Stoics believed that the same laws that govern the cosmos also apply to individuals. This includes both physical laws and moral laws. For example, just as the planets follow predictable orbits, individuals should live according to reason and virtue. One of the implications of this belief is that individuals should strive to understand and align themselves with the natural order of the universe. This includes accepting the things that happen in life as they are part of the larger, rational order of the cosmos. However, it's important to note that the Stoics did not see humans as passive spectators in the universe. On the contrary, they believed that humans, as rational beings, have a unique role in the cosmos, and that by living according to virtue and reason, individuals can fulfill their part in the cosmic order. In his distinctive mystic metaphysics, the Neoplatonist philosopher Plotinus effectively interwove the notion of microcosm and macrocosm. He saw the universe and humanity not as distinct entities, but as parts of a continuous existence. For him, the soul and body, or spirituality and materiality, were not isolated, but an amalgamated existence, a concept he extended to all beings. Thus, in Plotinus's metaphysics, each entity encompasses both spiritual and material aspects, albeit in varying degrees. Refining Plato's ideas in Timaeus, Plotinus introduced a more defined conception of the world soul, or anima mundi, within his mystic metaphysical framework. Whereas Plato put forth the notion of a demiurge, a divine artisan responsible for crafting the order of the cosmos but not its creator, Plotinus pushed the concept further. He proposed that nous, or mind, and the world soul emerged from a divine source he referred to as the One. Sounds Gnostic, right? Through this process of emanation, he expounded upon the nature of the soul of the cosmos. In essence, Plotinus provided a contrast to the Christian concept of creation called ex nihilo, or from nothing, which ascribes the universe's creation to God's deliberate thought and willful action. Interestingly, Christianity is never directly mentioned in his works. His theory of emanation ex deo, or from God, underscores the absolute transcendence of the One, implying that the universe's unfolding is a natural result of its existence. Despite the emanations decreasing in power the further they are from the source, the One remains unaffected and undiminished. Plotinus employs the analogy of the sun, which emits light without losing its intensity, or a mirror reflecting an object without altering the reflected subject. The initial emanation is thought, symbolically linked with the Demiurge in Plato's Timaeus, and represented as the first inclination towards good. From the mind emerges the world soul, which Plotinus bifurcates into upper and lower, associating the lower aspect of the soul with nature. Following the world soul comes individual human souls, and eventually matter, the lowest and least perfected level of being in the cosmos. Despite the seemingly ordinary perception of the material world, Plotinus emphasizes its fundamentally divine origin, as it derives from the One, through the conduits of the mind and the world soul. We discern the One in material entities, and then in the forms, through good or beauty. Predicated on the concept of continuity between the cosmos and man, and between spirituality and materiality, Plotinus regarded the mystical union between humans and the cosmic deity as an essential religious practice. Plotinus's philosophy, which is essentially devotional, is further exemplified by his notion of attaining a state of ecstatic union with the One, termed kenosis. Porphyry of Tyre, a Neoplatonic philosopher, recounts that Plotinus achieved this union 4 times during their acquaintance. This state bears similarities to enlightenment, liberation, and other interpretations of mystical union found in various Eastern and Western traditions. Plotinus's teachings have been often compared to those of the Hindu school of Advaita Vedanta. Since comparisons of human beings and the universe were made in India and China, the concept may ultimately be of Asian origin. Anyway, later Neoplatonists, believing that the correspondences between microcosm and macrocosm, if properly invoked, would allow them to draw upon hidden reserves of psychic energy immanent in the living universe, employed a form of ritual magic called Theurgy to assist them in their spiritual aspirations. Others, less spiritually inclined, however, hoped to use these cosmic sympathies to manipulate the world for material benefit or to predict the course of future events. Astrologers employed the theory of melethesia, the belief that each sign of the zodiac corresponds to a specific part of the human body in the practice of medicine. The broad interest in the microcosm and macrocosm is reflected in its adoption by Jews, Christians, Gnostics, Manichaeans, and the authors of the Hermetic corpus, who were all hierophants of the ancient mysteries. Those hierophants took the name of Hermes Trismegistus, which, contrary to popular belief, was not an individual per se, but a title, an archetype given to those high-ranking priests. The idea of the correspondence between microcosm and macrocosm was further explored by the Jews and the Arabs in the early medieval period. The Talmud and the Midrash allude to the microcosm theory, which is further highlighted in the mystical Jewish tradition, the Kabbalah. The concept is explored significantly in the seminal Kabbalistic text, the Sefer Yetzirah, or the Book of Creation. This early text identifies connections between the Hebrew alphabet, the natural world, and human physiology. The 13th century Book of Splendor, or the Zohar, taught that the first emanation in the creative process is the cosmic man called Adam Kadmon, through whom the rest of creation emanates, so that terrestrial human beings are modeled on an ideal form that provides the pattern for all of creation. Arabic philosophies may have influenced two Jewish scholars, Ibn Gabirol and Ibn Sadiq, as seen in their works, The Fountain of Life and the Microcosm, respectively. They integrated the Delphic aphorism, "Know thyself," with the microcosmic perspective, demonstrating the interconnection of self-awareness and universal understanding. Despite Maimonides' reservations about certain elements of the microcosm theory, which he expresses in his Guide for the Perplexed, he generally embraced its principles. Maimonides was a Sephardic Jewish philosopher who became one of the most prolific and influential Torah scholars of the Middle Ages. Islamic scholars further developed the microcosm theory, as evidenced in the encyclopedic work, the Rasail, or Epistles of the Brethren of Purity, produced by the Ikhwan al-Safa in 10th and 11th century Basra. Two of the 52 treatises contained within focus on the microcosm and macrocosm, with parallels drawn between the two throughout the compendium. The Rasail explores the divine creation process and the mystical reintegration of creatures with God through human comprehension. Additionally, both al-Biruni and Ibn Sina subscribe to the microcosmic model, with the latter incorporating it as the basis for his theory of medicine. The revival of Hermeticism and Neoplatonism in the Renaissance, both of which had reserved a prominent place for the microcosm-macrocosm analogy, also led to a marked rise in the popularity of the latter. Some of the most notable proponents of the concept in this period include Marsilio Ficino, Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa, Francesco Patrizzi, Giordano Bruno, and Tommaso Campanella. It was also central to the new medical theories propounded by the Swiss physician Paracelsus and his many followers, most notably Robert Fludd. It is important to mention that Fludd's grand synthesis was regarded as a Bible of Rosicrucianism. Andreas Vesaliusa, a 16th century anatomist and physician, in his anatomy text, De Humani Corporis Fabrica Libri Septem, one of the most influential books ever written on human anatomy, noted that the human body in many respects corresponds admirably to the universe, and for that reason was called the Little Universe by the ancients. Paracelsus proposed that within man was an inner heaven with stars. Paracelsus's philosophy of correspondences was based upon the belief that for every ailment and illness in man, the microcosm, there existed a cure in nature, the macrocosm. He writes, "Man is a microcosm, or a little world, because he is an extract from all the stars and planets of the whole firmament, from the earth and the elements, and so he is their quintessence." Despite a surge of interest in the microcosm during the early modern period, reflected in a wide range of disciplines, the theory did not lead to new discoveries, and it was gradually relegated to the margins of science and philosophy, along with the occult disciplines that maintained an affinity to it. The microcosm continued to inspire esoteric thinkers and opponents of modern materialism, such as the theosophist H.P. Blavatsky, who combined the microcosm with evolution in The Secret Doctrine, and the anthroposophist Rudolf Steiner, whose lectures on the two worlds, delivered in 1910, were later published as Macrocosmos und Microcosmos. Although the idea of the microcosm as a synonym for humanity became untenable among mainstream thinkers by the 18th century, the word itself was retained as a reference to any subsystem, in which sense it is commonly used today. The microcosm and microcosm theory has evolved to take different shapes and forms over time, and today it's considered by some scholars to be an incomplete and naive answer to questions that they assume can be answered by science and quantum mechanics. But that's just arrogance. Science still cannot explain the relationship between consciousness and the material world. There is a huge gap in our understanding in this regard. Science has to focus on facts, which limits the scope of research. Therefore, the answer lies in a metaphysical approach, which the ancients were more open to. Our bodies host a universe inside, and although our ego thinks about itself as a singular autonomous entity, this belief sits as far from the truth as one can imagine. Our actions are often controlled by the trillions of organisms living inside us to form a bigger living structure. Therefore, the belief that we act totally independently of them is a foolish approach that only alienates us from our bodies and our true identity. Man is indeed a microcosm, and realizing that we might not have as much free will as we would like to believe is a humbling experience. Nevertheless, it's an important and vital step in aligning our lives with the universal will. Now, all of this considered, I am also interested to hear your opinion. Do you think the philosophers of old understood the universe and the role humans have to play in its theater better than we do today? Where and why do you think we lost the way? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I am eager to hear your thoughts, fellow mystic. If you want to delve deeper into the world of ancient wisdom and esotericism, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful videos. And if you want to support my mission to unearth and decipher the forgotten teachings of the ancient mysteries and the encrypted knowledge of Western esotericism, consider becoming a Patreon supporter. Until next time, continue to seek out the light. Hen to pan.